This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 10% off today by visiting hover.com/butterscotch.
Andrew Crispin here at CTIA 2011. Now, we bumped into John, who has the Kyocera Echo. This is a phone we've been hearing a little bit about. Crazy cool. I mean, you wouldn't really know it to look at it now.
That's right.
But there's actually some pretty exciting stuff happening here. It looks pretty much like a standard candy bar phone. Show us something.
No, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because as we designed this phone, we really designed it to be a phone first and foremost.
Right.
So you can see it looks like your very standard Android device, 3.5-inch WVGA touchscreen. The real magic of this device, though, is that you can see it opens into a dual display, dual touchscreen slider. Okay, dual touchscreen smartphone. First of its kind on the market. And you know what? I hit the power button as I did that. So you can see the device runs just like a normal Android device.
Right, but
now
we have a much bigger screen to work with now.
Exactly. It's like your PCs at home, for example. A lot of people with their PCs at home are putting two displays now on their desks. What this allows you to do is a couple of things. We call it simultasking. Where you can actually do two things at once on the phone. This is new within the smartphone category. So what I have here, this is the browser. I've got the microsite for the product open here. And let's say I find some information on here that I want to use and send off to somebody, or use for work, for example. Simply by taking two fingers and touching the two displays, it pulls up the menu, and I can use the browser on this side and then say pull up email over here. Now, this is just an existing email from Gmail, but I could be taking the information from the browser, still fully functional, using it in email.
Right, so now we can actually reference what's happening on there. That's one thing I find with smartphones, because when I'm on my computer, I'll take a screenshot of something and I'll say, I'll send it across someone and be like, oh, if you look here, the place that I circled, it says this or whatever. But now we can actually have a look at it as we're telling people what they're about to say.
It's really a different way to multitask on a smartphone. In the past, on other single-screen devices, a lot of them are very elegant, but to multitask, you have to toggle between screens. With this, you're actually doing two things at once. So this is one of the real compelling differentiators about this phone. Another thing that I really love about the phone is something that we call optimized mode. And we have applications that are written and customized for the device that allow you to use the two displays in a complementary way with each other. So, for example, if I go into email, you'll see we've got a message here, and if I want to compose the email, I can take it, and I'll turn it this way. Using the accelerometer, you can see I have the email on top, and I can even undo the hinge a little bit. I could set it on my desk like a laptop, and this huge virtual keypad down here. You've got the full 3.5-inch display to use as a keypad.
I like this, because software keyboards are easier and easier to type on. But at the end of the day, you're still using this tiny little keyboard, and you always end up hunting and pecking. I like this idea.
Here, the size is great. We include a swipe keyboard. You can also use a classic style keyboard if you prefer. But to your point, from a real estate standpoint, by getting the two displays, two 3.5-inch displays, what you've done is gone from 800 by 480, which is typical for a WVGA, to 800 by 960. To put that in context, it's about 10.8 square inches, and it gives you about 45% more screen room than an iPhone 4, for example. So you just have much more room to work with to create some compelling applications for the device.
One of the first things I'm thinking of when I see a phone like this is I'm really thinking, aside from the fact that it does resemble a little bit the Nintendo DS, I'm really thinking gaming. You got to be doing something with gaming.
Well, no, I'm really glad you asked, because here at CTIA, what we're announcing is our Kyocera Android Developer Program, and we already have some of the really big names in the business on board, and gaming's a great example. On the phone, preloaded, you're going to find EA's The Sims, a very popular game franchise. They've optimized that application so the gameplay will be in one display while all the controls are down below.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? Because otherwise you're always you're touching here, and the controls, your thumbs are blocking what's actually happening on screen.
So, and then we have other companies like Namco and Gameloft, for example, that have icons to go directly to their download sites that will have optimized applications available for download. There's going to be right in the neighborhood of about a dozen optimized games available as this launches on April 17th, and that number is going to grow quickly from there. We have many more developers getting on board, especially now that we're launching the developer program.
Very good. So I'm predicting we'll see a lot of manufacturers being like, damn, that's a good idea. I'm going to try that one too. What are the actual specs that are under the hood here?
So this is running Android 2.2.
Okay.
It has a 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor inside. The phone weighs about 6.8 ounces, which if you, I like to tell people, you know, it's a little bit heavier than some, but if you want to say like ounces per square inch of real estate, it's actually not too bad. Right. You're almost getting side-by-side smartphones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the most important thing is really not the weight, in my opinion, anyway.
No.
It really is how it fits in your pocket.
And, you know, something that's really nice about this, and I don't know if you want to call it a spec, but if you can get a look at this hinge, this is really kind of the secret sauce to the whole thing. This is made of a super copper alloy, okay, really strong. It's gone through huge durability testing, and it was designed with two things in mind. One was to get this gap to less than 5 millimeters. Yep. So as you're using this as a combined display, it almost disappears as you look at it for a little while. But the other thing that was very important is as you close the device, you can see it's entirely flush. That hinge doesn't stick out at all. Very strong, very sleek, and it keeps it as a single display smartphone, very pocketable. You can easily put it in a coat pocket, in a purse, and a very elegant design from that standpoint. To finish the thought on specs, you've got micro SD memory, external, very conveniently accessible. Comes with an 8 gigabyte card. Will support up to 32. And we're also shipping this phone almost kind of like a built or an included accessory. We're going to ship the phone with an extra battery. Okay, and that battery, we didn't just toss in the extra battery, we put it in its own small charging case, so it can be charged independently of the phone, and then that case can be hooked into the phone and used to charge the phone on the fly.
Yeah, because I guess when we're running two screens, we are going to be obviously sucking up a bit more battery.
You know, the battery life is really competitive on this. From a talk time standpoint, you're getting 5.5 to 7 hours. Very, very standard in the smartphone line. When you do open it up and you start doing multimedia across both displays, it's gone through all the usability testing at Sprint, for example, and they're satisfied with it. But we also know that the type of person, the real social media scavenger, the person who only puts their phone down when they go to bed, they don't want to run out of power during the day. So you got that extra battery just in case, and we think it's an added value in the phone for $199.
Very nice to see. So you just said it's $199?
April 17th at Sprint is the launch date. They're going to start taking reserve now orders, so you can basically put in your reservation on March 26th. Sells for $199 with the typical 2-year service agreement or eligible upgrade. And that's April 17th. It'll be through all of Sprint's retail channels nationwide.
Very cool. So what website are we going for more information on this phone and the other great stuff that Kyocera does?
So we have a microsite dedicated specifically to this phone. If you want to get more information about the phone itself, it's www.echobykyocera.com. That's Kyocera. Echobykyocera.com. If you want to see the full line of our phones, it's just www.kyocera-wireless.com. And for the reserve now with Sprint, you can go to sprint.com/echo.
Okay, and we'll put all those links, including pricing and all that great stuff, in the show notes on butterscotch.com. John, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 10% off today by visiting hover.com/butterscotch.